Salmon populations have been declining for a long time, but the federal government doesn't want to address the dams. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of institutional entrenchment that causes them to do everything they can to avoid addressing the primary issue. And they found a scapegoat in these birds that nest here at the mouth of the Columbia River. This is East Sand Island, and this is home to the largest colony of double-crested cormorants in the world. And these birds have been persecuted throughout history, mostly because they eat fish. And that remains true today. They're being hazed out of many of the places where they traditionally nest. And so this island has really become a critically important place for their survival.
That is until 2015, when the federal government began a program to kill thousands of cormorants on and around East Sand Island.
You could come out here and watch federal agents in a boat driving around, literally blowing birds out of the sky.
Kill the birds that eat salmon, the theory goes, and perhaps more salmon will return for the ecosystem and for humans.
I came to the Northwest because of salmon. I wanted to go to law school to protect salmon. They're incredibly important to the culture and ecology of the Northwest and to my life. I caught a king salmon once in Alaska, a 52-pound king on a fly that I tied myself. I'll never forget how big she was. We caught so many fish every day. I don't even know how many we caught. We didn't keep track. Everyone was catching their limit. I just assumed that there would be as abundant salmon populations as there are in Alaska. I thought, for sure the Pacific Northwest will have salmon in the numbers that Alaska does. When I moved here, I was faced with the problem, right there in my own backyard. Dams in the Columbia River cut off 55% of the spawning and rearing habitat for native salmonid species, and that's already cutting the survivability of salmon more than in half, just by having dams on the system. I've been fishing here for a few years, and I haven't caught a salmon here in Oregon.
Salmon populations have been declining for a long time. The reason that salmon are listed under the Endangered Species Act today is because of the dams.
Since the year 2000, federal agencies have spent billions of dollars attempting to recover salmon runs in the Columbia River, which was once one of the largest salmon runs in the world. In an attempt to boost salmon returns without removing or modifying dams, they turned to eliminating animals that eat salmon as part of their diet.
Their goal was to kill more than 10,000 adult birds and destroy more than 26,000 nests over a period of 4 years.
Some weeks during the 2015 nesting season, employees shot as many as 500 cormorants.
They're so sensitive in their nesting colony that the public's not allowed on the island. When scientists approach the colony, they have to crawl through tunnels.
Yet federal agents built towers to shoot the birds off their nests in the dark using night vision goggles. They also walked through the colony and sprayed oil on the nests so eggs wouldn't hatch. In the spring of 2016, they began killing just like the year before. But internal documents kept surfacing that cast doubt on the benefits for salmon.
There is a very clear and explicit pattern of hiding information that would have led to a different conclusion.
The Corps' own lead cormorant biologist wrote a letter condemning the program, saying the agency misrepresented its own science, making the lethal option seem like the only management decision remaining. He even said that reducing the number of cormorants in the Columbia estuary would have a major population-wide impact. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service produced an internal report saying that killing cormorants would do nothing to help salmon. Other reports indicated that management activities could displace cormorants from East Sand Island and lead to a worst-case scenario, pushing the birds farther upstream where they would feed on a higher percentage of salmon.
The federal government scientists were telling them behind the scenes this would do nothing to help salmon. That report was never released. It was hidden. When we asked the federal government for it, they refused to give it to us. We had to actually go to court and get a federal judge to order them to release it. When we got it, we found out that in fact they knew all along that this wouldn't do anything. This was just a diversion, a distraction. So what we have is this very, very long history of the federal government ignoring the law and ignoring the courts. They've been sued 5 times, they've lost 5 times. When they looked at killing cormorants, they hid their own science and had to be ordered by federal courts to release it.
Just then, the worst case happened. In June of 2016, tens of thousands of birds simply flew away.
In a single day, 16,000 double-crested cormorants abandoned their nests and left the island and refused to return. Nothing like that has ever been documented in a cormorant colony anywhere, ever.
They left nests of unhatched eggs and the colony collapsed completely. When media asked the Corps why the colony collapsed, they said they didn't know, but eagles might have scared them away. In 2017, only 160 cormorants returned to nest. This colony represented 40% of nesting cormorants west of the Rockies. If those birds did not find other suitable habitat to nest, the loss could send double-crested cormorants into long-term decline.
And so now we're in a situation which is really a worst-case scenario. Salmon continue to decline. The causes of salmon decline continue to go unaddressed. And the world's largest colony of double-crested cormorants has collapsed.
Even if we killed all the cormorants at the mouth of the Columbia River, salmon would still face declines due to the human impacts upstream.
And unless somebody ultimately stands up to the federal government, this is just going to continue. There's no reason for them not to just keep repeating this cycle.
The solutions being proposed aren't as radical as they may seem. 4 Snake River dams were built during the Cold War to move deepwater port access inland. They hold little water for irrigation. Their small electric generation could be easily offset by renewables, and trains can carry products now transported by barge. These dams could be removed. Removing Columbia River dams would be much more disruptive, but increasing flow in the river during critical parts of the salmon life cycle is possible. Entrenched interests have consistently shut down both proposals. For 20 years, every salmon plan created by the federal government has failed in practice and in court. In 2016, a judge directed the federal agencies responsible for salmon recovery to create a new plan specifically addressing dams and river flow. He even suggested breaching the 4 Snake River dams, but did not require it. When this plan is released, will we see yet another plan that ignores the best science? Or will we see a plan that addresses dams, stops scapegoating native species like cormorants, and truly has the potential to bring back one of the most important species in the Northwest?
We can't keep scapegoating species until there are none left. We have to ask ourselves, what are we really losing?